When did your childhood officially end? Growing up, we didn't have much. Mom worked double shifts at the diner, and I helped take care of my little sister Emma. Still, we found ways to be kids, building forts from blankets, having water balloon fights in summer. We made it work. I was 12 when Mom got sick, not the kind where you take medicine and get better, but the kind where doctors start using words like terminal and hospice. I nodded along in those sterile hospital rooms, pretending to understand. On Emma's 8th birthday, I used my savings to buy a cake. Mom was too weak to leave her bed, so we brought the celebration to her room. As Emma blew out her candles, I caught Mom watching me instead of her. There was something in her eyes I couldn't name then, pride mixed with a terrible sadness. That night, she called me to her bedside after Emma fell asleep. "I need you to promise me something," she whispered, her voice thin as tissue paper. "Promise you'll keep her birthday special every year." I nodded, throat tight. "And promise you won't let her forget me." She pressed her wedding ring into my palm, closing my fingers around it. A week later, I found Mom sitting at our kitchen table with papers spread everywhere. Bills, insurance forms, legal documents. Her hair had started falling out in clumps, and she'd stopped trying to hide it with scarves. "I need you to sign this," she said, sliding a document across the table. "It makes you Emma's guardian, not your father." I stared at the guardianship papers. Mom's tear fell onto the page as she offered me the pen. I signed my name in careful cursive, the way they taught us in 3rd grade. A 12-year-old signing away their childhood. Mom died 3 weeks later, and Emma still asks when she's coming home.
Saved for years, finally bought a house. When I went to move in, I found my family trashing it around, so I called the police. I'm Sarah, 28, work as a nurse doing back-to-back shifts at the hospital. For 5 years, I lived in this cramped studio apartment with paper-thin walls, saving every penny I could. Skipped vacations, ate ramen for dinner, drove a beat-up Honda that barely started. Also, I could buy my own place. My family? They're a whole different story. My sister Lisa, 31, married her high school boyfriend Jake right after graduation. They had twins immediately and have been struggling ever since. Lisa hasn't worked in years, claims the kids need her full attention. Meanwhile, Jake bounces between part-time jobs and spends most evenings at the bar. Every family dinner was the same sob story. Lisa complaining about their tiny rental, how the kids share one bedroom, how they can barely afford groceries. Our parents would slip her money under the table, thinking I didn't notice. I drive home to my shoebox apartment while Lisa got the sympathy and the cash. When I finally saved enough for a down payment, I started house hunting quietly. Found this perfect 3-bedroom place with a fenced yard, good school district. The seller was motivated, gave me a great deal. I closed on it without telling anyone because I knew my family would find a way to make it about them. Big mistake telling them at Sunday dinner. I walked into my parents' house that weekend feeling proud, ready to share my good news. Lisa was there with the twins, Jake was on the couch watching football, and Mom was setting the table. "I have an announcement," I said during dinner. "I bought a house." The silence was deafening. Mom dropped her fork. Dad stopped chewing. Lisa's face went from confused to furious in about 2 seconds. "You bought a house?" Lisa's voice was sharp. "Without telling us?" "I wanted it to be a surprise." "You don't need a house," she snapped. "You're single. You work all the time. What's the point?" Dad jumped in immediately. "Lisa's right. You live alone, Sarah. Lisa has a family." Mom nodded. "Those children need space to grow. You barely use your apartment anyway with all those shifts." I stared at them, shocked. "It's my money. I saved for 5 years. Family helps family," Dad said firmly. "Lisa needs that house more than you do." Lisa leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "You should sign it over to us. It's the right thing to do." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you insane? I'm not giving you my house." "Don't be selfish," Mom chimed in. "Think about your nephews." Jake finally looked up from his beer. "Yeah, we could really use the space." I stood up, grabbing my purse. "This conversation is over. Don't you dare walk out on us," Lisa yelled as I headed for the door. I didn't look back. Drove straight home, hands shaking with rage. The next few weeks were brutal. Constant calls, guilt trip texts, even showing up at my work. Lisa kept insisting I was being cruel to the children. My parents acted like I'd personally ruined the family. I changed my number and moved into my new house without telling them the address. For 2 months, everything was perfect. I loved my space, my quiet neighborhood, my own driveway. Finally felt like I'd made it. Then I had to leave town for a nursing conference. 3 months later, I'm on a business trip when my neighbor calls. There are people in your house, loud music, cars, everywhere. I check my security cameras and my blood runs cold. It's Lisa throwing a full party in my house. 20 people, drinking my wine, kids jumping on my furniture. But here's the kicker. I see Lisa giving tours, telling people, "Welcome to my new house." She's literally claiming it as hers. I call 911. There are intruders in my home. 20 minutes later, I watch through my cameras as police storm in. Lisa's screaming, "This is my sister's house. She gave us permission." Turns out, Lisa copied my keys at the housewarming party and had been using my place as her personal party venue for weeks. She got arrested for breaking and entering. The party guests were mortified when they realized they'd been partying in a stolen house. Best part? Lisa had quit her job because she thought she was getting my house for free. Now she's facing charges, and I changed all my locks. My house, my rules.
What made you say, "Yep, I'm going to jail"? I was working night security at the children's hospital when I heard crying from the NICU. Not baby crying, adults sobbing. It was 2:30 a.m. on a Tuesday. The hallways were eerily quiet except for the constant hum of medical equipment and distant beeping. I'd been doing this job for 3 years, and unusual sounds always put me on edge. The NICU was supposed to be restricted access only during night hours. I found this woman in scrubs hunched over an incubator, shaking. She looked up at me with tears streaming down her face and whispered, "I can't do this anymore." She was maybe mid-40s, had that exhausted look healthcare workers get after too many double shifts. Her badge said Lydia Mora, RN, and she'd clearly been crying for a while. Her mascara was completely smeared, eyes bloodshot. That's when I noticed her hands were positioned over the baby's breathing tube. My blood went cold. This wasn't just a nurse having an emotional moment. Her fingers were literally hovering inches from the ventilator connection, trembling. The baby was tiny, couldn't have weighed more than 3 pounds, hooked up to machines that were clearly keeping her alive. This nurse was having some kind of breakdown, and I'm watching what looks like an attempted murder in real time. I immediately stepped toward her, trying to keep my voice calm calm but firm. "Ma'am, please step away from the baby." She started crying harder, her whole body shaking. "You don't? I understand. She's suffering. Look at her." The baby was connected to a dozen machines, had been in the NICU for months according to the chart hanging nearby. Tiny tubes going into her nose, IVs in both arms, chest rising and falling only because of the ventilator. But that didn't matter. I couldn't let this happen. I could see in Lydia's eyes that she'd already made her decision. She wasn't just emotional, she was resolute. Her hand moved closer to the tube. I pressed my security alarm and gently but firmly pulled her hands away from the equipment. She didn't resist, just collapsed into a chair, sobbing uncontrollably. Within seconds, doctors and nurses flooded in. The alarm had brought everyone running. Night supervisor, 2 doctors, 3 nurses, all wondering what emergency had triggered the alert. They saw me restraining their colleague next to a critical patient. The head nurse, a stern woman named Marisol, immediately assumed the worst. "What did you do? Did you touch the baby? Did you touch any equipment?" I tried to explain what I'd witnessed, but Lydia was hyperventilating, couldn't speak coherently. She kept mumbling something about ending the pain. And "She's been here too long." The other nurses were frantically checking all the machines, looking for any signs of tampering. They were treating this like I had somehow endangered the patient. Then, security footage review began. The hospital's protocol required immediate investigation of any incident in the NICU. Cameras showed me approaching Lydia while she was positioned over the incubator, then physically restraining a medical professional. Without her clear testimony about what she was actually planning, it looked like I had assaulted a nurse while she was providing care to a critically ill infant. The police arrived within 10 minutes. Hospital administration was furious. This was their worst nightmare. Any incident involving a security guard and medical staff near a patient could result in massive liability. The detective who interviewed me kept asking the same questions. Why did you put your hands on the nurse? What made you think she was doing something wrong? Are you qualified to judge medical procedures? Finally, after 2 hours in an interrogation room, Lydia was stable enough to tell them the truth. She'd been planning to disconnect the baby's life support because she couldn't bear watching the suffering anymore. I didn't stop a murder. I stopped a mercy killing by a nurse who'd lost hope.
What's the most messed up reason someone's ever said, "I love you"? I'd been working at Westlake Pharmaceuticals for 3 years when Jason transferred to our department. Charming, brilliant, and unexpectedly attentive to me. The quiet lab tech nobody noticed. Our first date was coffee. By our 5th, I was telling him things I'd never told anyone. How I developed our company's experimental sleep medication. How I worried about the side effects I'd documented but my supervisor dismissed. 6 months in, Jason surprised me with a weekend getaway to a mountain cabin. Under stars and whiskey, we talked about childhood dreams and adult disappointments. He asked about my work, my access codes, my documentation on those side effects. For the next 2 months, he was always there, bringing lunch to my lab, helping me work through research problems, listening to my concerns about the company possibly shelving my breakthrough drug. The night before our big presentation to the board, we worked late. I was stressed, doubting everything. He held my hand across my desk covered in research notes and security badges. "I need to tell you something," he said, his voice suddenly serious. "I love you." The next morning, he and my research were gone. Security footage showed him downloading everything at 3 a.m. By afternoon, our competitor announced a breakthrough identical to my work. When I got home, I found only a champagne bottle with a note. "Thanks for the passwords. $12 million to say 3 words. Worth it."